We have to walk different. You guys have to walk different. You put on this jersey, it means you have to walk different. That's your job, is actually to be different. You wear this, it means you're walking by a different standard. And if you will walk by a different standard, it's going to be so worth it.
No Filter Radio with Alan Cutler, brought to you by Quantrell Auto Group. QuantrellForLife.com.
First voice was Cam Williams, who is getting a lot of love for the people that are able to sneak into practice. And the second one I'm sure you recognize is Mark Pope. Walk differently. Does that get you excited? As practice is going on at UK again this afternoon, they're getting ready. And there are certain people that are allowed in practice. We will hear from one of them later today. I've read his stuff on Twitter. I don't know Kyle Mann at all. I don't know if you do, Jimmy, but we will play some sound from him. Apparently, he has ways as a national guy to get in practice, so we'll milk it for what it's worth. He has some interesting observations. He's supposed to be a pretty smart hoops guy, so we will use that as well. Sean Woods will join us about 15 minutes from now. Maurice Douglas Sr., a studly DB back in the day for Kentucky, played forever in the NFL, mostly with the Chicago Bears, has been a big-time high school coach. His son came here and then left. He was joining us at 12:30, but something came up, and so he will hopefully join us next week. He apologized. Things happen. I get it. It's not a big deal, and I wish him well with what he's dealing with right now. So prayers to him and what's going on. Brandon Ramsey, old friend, hasn't been on the show for a while. We'll talk some basketball with that. And I'm really excited about James Blackman. James Blackman was a stud back in the day. He really was one of the smoothest basketball players of his era. Really, really, really good, special dude. Has become a very, very good state championship winning high school coach. His son had a heck of a career in college as well. I think he's playing somewhere in the world. He will join us at 1:30. So a lot of things going on. And a little tidbit, Chris Fisher put it up. I agree with him. Bogans and Prince, they should have their jerseys up in the rafters at Rupp. They both should be up there as well. It should be. And soon. Bogans is the one that really surprised me that he hasn't been up there. Because when you look at all the All-SECs and all that kind of stuff, just because they didn't win a national championship, they lost the game to Wade, who turned out to be one of the great players of his era in the NBA. And I will always say, had his ankle been healthy, they would have had a shot of beating Marquette. It was a huge upset. And Wade, if you remember, that game was just absolutely unequivocally ridiculous. How about Reed Sheppard? Part of this, I feel bad. Fred VanVleet, remember VanVleet when he played in college against Kentucky when Wichita was undefeated? They were, had the perfect record, one of the great NC2A games. And I said at the time, I thought he could play in the NBA. Well, he's had a hell of an NBA career. He signed an extension, 2 years, like $50 million. He ripped his knee, so he's out. So Reed Sheppard has a great shot at starting, probably will. And the odds of him being the most improved player, it's interesting. In 24 hours, it went from 80-1 to 30-1. That's incredible. And I can see Reed having a heck of a year this year. I really do. And, you don't wish bad on anybody, so you get your opportunity. Reed feels that, and he'll say that when he's asked and stuff like that. But the opportunity is there, so guess what? You got to take advantage of it. You just have to take advantage of it. I got to mention the Bengals for two reasons. Let's do the serious news first. And I was shocked, and it's not like I was in contact with them after all these years. And when I did the Bengals radio network, I wasn't around the players. I did my job. I read everything out there, listened to everything out there, and I was never around the team. Didn't have time to be around the team. They understood it. But when you consume everything, it's really not difficult to be the host of the Bengals radio network, hour and a half pregame show, do the halftime show, hour and a half postgame show. And Rudy Johnson always had a reputation of being one of the good guys. Only 45 years old. He just passed away. Oh, tough runner, Auburn. And Mo Egger, my old friend, who actually was my first producer, and now Mo's developed into a wonderful personality in Cincinnati on 2 stations, and he's done some national stuff. But We laugh anytime we talk about my first year, how crazy it was that he was my producer. We were up on the 6th floor in this old dungy building before they moved. R.I.P. Rudy Johnson. And then Mo brought it up on Twitter. He had a game, Jimmy. He carried the ball 43 times. Now, I don't know how many times somebody's carried the ball over 40 times. It's happened a bunch. I mean, in the history of the NFL, there's no question about it, but it's not a normal thing. And I do remember the game, and I remember it was cold. Maybe it's just my feelings. It was cold a lot in the broadcast booth, and the crowd wasn't very big, but it was loud. People were chanting the name, Rudy, Rudy, Rudy. And it's like he took the entire Bengals team on his back. Corey Dillon wasn't playing. I remember that. 43 lugs for 180 yards. Just one of those unbelievable games. And I wondered after the game, was he going to be all right for a couple of weeks? Because the pounding he took and the determination he had, 45 years old. Gone too soon. Gone way too soon. It hurts. I had on my list yesterday to talk about the Bengals. And look, I said I thought Browning would do a really good job, that I thought he was better than some of the starters, not top 10, not 15, not 20, last 5 or 6 quarterbacks, because what I've seen from Browning, and so far I'm absolutely wrong. Although when he had to do it in the snippet, he did a really good job. So I'm not shilling for Browning. But, Jimmy, I bet you watched the Lions last night. One of the things I like about the Lions, they play really hard. And please don't tell me everybody plays the same way. They just don't, okay? And if you can't observe sports, you can look at a team and tell when somebody plays harder than the other team. The Lions play hard. They strain all the time. I wrote down lazy. When I didn't watch the Bengals game. I look at the clips on YouTube. They were like 38 clips. Oh, my gosh, that was too much. The Bengals suck. Their offensive line sucked. I have been complaining about the offensive line. They got a running back named Brown who was ready for a breakout year. But you can't have a breakout year if you have no place to go. And one of the things that affected Browning was he had no time, and he had no running game. And so he threw some bad passes, and he did a bad job too. But the Bengals are awful. For a team that's got above 500 record, and I said this before the season, how they could spend money on Higgins as a wide receiver, really good wide receiver, but you only have so much money, and not bring in a really good right guard was dumber than a box of rocks. And the Bengals are just dumb how they do stuff. It's just dumb. There's talent on the team. Why do you need to play a second wide receiver all that money? Give the money to Chase. Other guys can catch the ball and put the money on the offensive line. You have this natural resource called Joe Burrow, and you didn't protect him, and now he's gone probably for the year. It's just stupid. It really is. And how about Marty Brenneman? Marty Brenneman, God bless, I miss him doing the Reds game. He called the Bengals management and the owners, he called them a joke. A joke. A joke. I looked at a football team, and I thought they quit. And there are some people saying, well, Minnesota ran up the score. To that I say, you know what? Shut up. Shut up. Then stop them. And if somebody does that at Kentucky, I would say the same thing. I have always believed if somebody's running up the score on you, stop them. Period. Period. Steve Superior used to do it. No question about it. And I get part of it. Okay, if you're a college kid and you're getting to play in a game that you might never play in, and you're the third string or the fourth string, and you're the tailback on the 3-yard line, this is your chance to score. It might be the only time you have a chance to score. You know what? If you can score, score. If the other team doesn't like it, too bad. Too bad. Why should that kid be dealing with kneel downs if he's never been able to score a touchdown or something like that? I just don't respect it. It's a physical game. Duh. Stop them. Stop them. Stop them. If you can't stop them, you can't stop them. It's pretty simple. And so anybody complaining that Minnesota ran up the score, no, it's all the Bengals' fault. 100% the Bengals' fault. 100%. If you want to compare, go look at the highlights from the Lions game. Boy, that Lions-Baltimore game was really good. It was really good. And with all the changes that the Lions made, losing so many coaches, this, that, and the other, and to do what they did and how I love that little pitch out that they do inside the 10-yard line. And it's coming, and it still seems to work all the time. You lose your coordinators. You lose other coaches. I think they lost as many as 6 coaches. You replace that many coaches, it's a tough thing to do. It's a credit to the Lions organization. It really is. I look at the Lions organization. I look at the Bengals organization. It's like 2 totally different worlds. By the way, news broke while we were on the air yesterday that Bruce Pearl was retiring as coach. He's going to be an ambassador for Auburn and stuff like that. And the rumors continue to be out there. He wants to run for office and that kind of stuff. And if he runs for office, he can't be an ambassador for Auburn anymore. Do I think it's an accident? No, nobody thinks it's an accident. He did it now. But I got to tell you, I'm listening to another station, and they don't know really bupkis about his son, Steven. Really, they're commenting about, what Steven is. First of all, maybe he'll fail. But I have followed his career, okay? The other guys talking about it, they really haven't. He's been the defensive coordinator. As a matter of fact, he's not just daddy's boy. He had a lot of different roles going for his daddy, moving his way up. And he could have already left. And this thing, first-time head coach at Auburn. Oh, you know what? Okay, it's only Bellarmine. What did Scotty Davenport do? Made sure his son, who was an assistant in Eastern, come back to Bellarmine, so when he retired, he'd become the head coach. And you know what? That's fine. Steven is ready to be a head coach. He is. Now, is it fortunate he was on his dad's staff? Absolutely. Let's see what he did with it. Here's the fascinating part is this is no accident. It's 1,000,000 to 1 this is not an accident, okay? It will be fascinating to see, and if nobody leaves, that speaks volumes about how strong the Pearl family is at Auburn. There's a 30-day window that any player can now transfer when a coach leaves like that. And I actually think it's a fair deal because I think for years coaches would leave and the players were stuck. In the old days, the coach would leave and, you have to sit out, but the coach can break a contract. That sucked. It just sucked. Now, that's going to be a big story. If nobody leaves the Auburn family of basketball players, it says a couple things. One, Steven, the new head coach with a 5-year contract. And Jimmy, I don't know if you saw it. I looked 3-4 times. I couldn't find what the dollar figures were, but they gave him a 5-year contract. Obviously, he's not going to make what his dad made. He shouldn't. He's probably going to be the lowest paid coach in the Southeastern Conference, which is still a lot better than coaches at Transy and Moorhead, a lot of other places, as it should be. As it should be. It's got to be 7 figures. I can't imagine it's not 7 figures. Neither here nor there. The point being is, though, I'm sure Steven had something to do with recruiting these players. And he's known for being a really good relationship guy, okay? And what Pearl did, he had an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator, and Steven has been his defensive coordinator. And he's watched from his dad. And you know what I really like? Todd Golden, who's one of the best young coaches in basketball. I think everybody knows that. And I said when he got hired by Florida that it was a great hire. Well, not only did they work on the same staff at Auburn, but they also were on 2 professional teams together. I think in Australia and Israel, as I recall right. They're dear friends. And look, Steven Pearl is ready to be a head coach in the SEC. I actually believe that. Am I going to guarantee he's going to succeed? No. Am I going to tell you he's going to be better than his father? His father was a great coach. Seriously. To say Steven's going to be just as good, I think is silly. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Sean Woods will join us in a couple of minutes, but I got to throw out the Reds thing. And I'm actually going to defend Tito Francona for a second. Initially, what he did doesn't make any sense, but I don't know the rest of the story, and you don't know either. Seriously now. And so a lot of people are going on social media and say Tito Francona just blew any chance of the Reds being successful in making the playoffs because with the day off, he could have switched. Singer's been wonderful for the Reds. Just been wonderful, but Green is a much better pitcher. And I said, as soon as the trade happened, getting Singer from Kansas City was a really good deal, and he actually pitched better than I thought he would, neither here nor there. But there's an extra day off, and so he could have moved Green up one day. I don't know this, but I'll bet the reason why he didn't, because had he pitched today, it would be on his normal rest. He's giving him an extra day. Well, the pitcher doesn't need an extra day. Wait a second. Jimmy, I bet you agree with this, okay? He just pitched a 9-inning game. I bet there aren't 20 pitchers that pitched a 9-inning game this year. I would bet a lot on that, and if I'm wrong, let me know, but I look at the box scores every day, and if I'm wrong, please tell me. Pitched a 1-hit shutout, okay? He's been hurt a lot. He hasn't pitched a lot. It would seem to me that extra day off probably helps him, not a little, but tremendously, and Singer's been really good. So on the surface, without any inside information, I actually agree with what Francona did. How do you not, when you have a chance to give your ace? Now, here's the negative part. Had he pitched today, he could pitch again to end the season, and that might be the difference whether or not they make the playoffs. And I get it. I get the argument. I get people complain. But here's what you don't know when you're complaining about it, just saying, okay, let's move the guy up. Pitcher's arms are dead this time of year. You can say, well, he didn't pitch much this year. Trust me, his arm is dead. All these arms are dead to different degrees. And so if he did it to give him an extra day and keeping Singer on his regular rest, which means Singer will pitch twice, I have no problem with it. I have no problem. Zero. Kaput. None. And if that's why I did it, I'll defend him. I'll absolutely unequivocally defend him. I think it's the right thing to do. And it's easy to pick on Francona. Zach Cozart, who's a shortstop for the Reds, has been whining and complaining. He's on Twitter all of a sudden a lot about, and he's right. Why Stewart didn't play in a certain game when he should be playing all the time. He's right. He's right. But some of the things Tito doesn't make any sense. This time, I think it's too easy to pile on him when you don't know the rest of the story. And I'm all for rest. R-E-S-T is rest. How many times have you seen a pitcher just lose it in September, not because of the pressure, but because they're just dog tired. And they're not going to whine. They're not going to complain because everybody feels that way at this particular point. That's how they feel. Let me give a little shout-out love to Mark's story. Rodriguez, the wonderful young tight end for Kentucky, Willie Rodriguez. I didn't know this. Maybe, Jimmy, you did. I didn't know his sister Gabby has something called Rett syndrome, and she's nonverbal, and they're best friends, and he lives his life with closeness to his sister. Mark, hat tip. It's a great story. It wasn't a good story. It's a great story. I did not know the story at all. And so I invite you to read Mark's story on the Lexington Herald-Leader. It's really good stuff. I mean, really good stuff. And the last one, we're going to take a break, and hopefully Sean will show up, or Jimmy, give me a thumbs up if he's there.
Not yet.
Not yet. Sean, late. He's usually really good on time. I will tell you I don't know, and I stand by this. Jacob of KSR got confirmation of the story that's been out there about Pope and Kelsey having words. They had visits scheduled. I think everybody knows the story. Visit scheduled for Tate Kenny, who probably isn't coming to either school, but that could change. And that's basically the internet story that neither coach is getting it, but you keep on recruiting, you keep on recruiting, you keep on recruiting. So Pope was late, and I guess Kelsey went in, and then Pope wasn't happy, and they had some words. To what degree this happened, I don't know. Is it possible it didn't happen? Wouldn't that be funny, Jimmy, if these two coaches conjured this up, made up a story, and leaked it out on purpose just to fool the media? Have you considered that?
Yes, and if that is the case, I love it. Absolutely love it.
Part of it I would be ticked off because then it's a joke, but it does mess with credibility. But would Pope and Kelsey get away with it? Of course they would. So I'm not going to swear it happened. And I was talking to Kendrick Haskins, my buddy from Wave TV. We were texting up and back, and he's going to join the show next week. And I said, what do you hear? And he hears that there were words, but they hugged it out when it was over. That's what he's hearing. And different people have heard different things. Would you bet your paycheck, Jimmy, that something happened, or would you bet it's a made-up story? What do you think the odds are?
I think it's not the fun answer. I think it's somewhere in the middle. That I don't think it's as big a deal, but there was probably something that happened. And I mean, if it's two coaches that are both, have level heads, they could come together. Even if there are words exchanged, that doesn't mean that the relationship is severed and they hate each other. I think could have been something. They figure it out. They talk about it. Maybe there's a misunderstanding, and it's okay.
Oh, yeah. I'm not suggesting anything. I mean, I will say this, though, because the headlock in the Kentucky-Louisville game, I do think there's something there. I think it's human nature. I'm going to ask Sean Woods that when we come back. I think that's human nature. But as far as saying that I think these guys hate each other, no, I'm not going to suggest that. Does that mean they're going to break bread over Thanksgiving? Probably not. But it's interesting how this thing takes a life of its own. Look, Louisville's going to be really good this year. And guess what? Kentucky's going to be really good this year. And the game's going to be super, super intense. And I love it. And I absolutely love it. So I'm not betting about what happened at all. And apparently, Kelsey's probably not going to talk till media day And I wonder when the next time Pope will talk. Maybe it's media day, and I wonder if each coach will talk less between now and media day, just because they don't want to be asked the question. It's whatever happened is going to be downplayed. There's no question about that. And there's no question that Subaru has a great deal. The Outback is a special car. And the Quantrill Auto Group has this wow. How often in today's world do you see 0%, 0% interest for 36 months? Zero. And if you want to spread it out to 72 months, it's 1.9% for 72 months. That's a deal. That's a deal. 0% interest for 36 months. And don't forget, the Quantrill family of dealerships is the right place to get your next Subaru, and they promise to get you the best in sales, service, and no gimmicks. I believe Sean Woods is coming up next. Alan Cutler, 1300 AM, 92.5 FM.
No Filter Radio with Alan Cutler, brought to you by Quantrill Auto Group. QuantrellForLife.com.
Hi, this is Alan Cutler. Have a no filter comment? Hit the text line, 859-381-1313. 859-381-1313.
Houchins Insurance Group is proud to partner with Auto Owners Insurance, a company that provides opportunity for independent agents to make insurance simple for their clients, offering risk management services that range from a renter's policy for your college student to home and auto coverage for your entire family. Houchins Insurance Group assures you that nobody works harder to keep you protected from life's uncertainties. Reach out to AJ Boss or Zach Bennett at 859-263-2771 to see if Auto Owners Insurance makes sense for you.
Hi, this is Alan Cutler. The Quantrill Auto Group has a great deal for this month. Subaru. The Outback is special, so check this out. 0%. That's right, 0% interest for 36 months. And if you want to spread it out to 72 months, 1.9%. What a deal. 0% interest for 36 months. Don't forget, the Quantrill family of dealerships is the right place to get your next Subaru, and they promise you the best in sales, service, and no gimmicks.
My name is Terry Schultz, CEO for the Rutherford County Area Habitat for Humanity. Republic Bank has really been a game changer. They have invested not only financially, but time to really listen so that we can move our mission forward. What I like about Republic Bank is they've come in asking, what are your needs? And I don't know that you get that any other place.
That's Terry's story. Now let's get to work on yours. Republic Bank. Time to thrive. Member FDIC.
Down, set, hack. Corn dogs coming in for the blitz.
Rick, what are you doing?
Brent, I'm practicing my snack plays for the next football game.
Well, in that case, Uncle Rick, stop by any Clark's Stop and Shop and pick up 5-hour energy shots, 2 for $4.99, or Uncle Ray's potato chips, 8-ounce bags, 2 for $6.
Don't get sidelined without your supplies this football season. Clark's Pump and Shop. Return, refresh, refuel.
Houchins Insurance Group is proud to partner with Auto Owners Insurance, a company that provides opportunity for independent agents to make insurance simple for their clients, offering risk management services that range from a renter's policy for your college student to home and auto coverage for your entire family. Houchins Insurance Group assures you that nobody works harder to keep you protected from life's uncertainties. Reach out to AJ Boss or Zach Bennett at 859-263-2771 to see if Auto Owners Insurance makes sense for you.
Back to No Filter Radio with Alan Cutler. Podcasts on Apple, Spotify, and Google, Monday through Friday.
Welcome back. Alan Cutler, 1300 AM, 92.5 FM. Sean Woods, hopefully in a couple of minutes, as he's hooking in right now. Internet's such a lovely thing. Says he never got the invite. I bet it's in his spam. Jimmy, is Sean as bad as I am, or is he better than me when it comes to technology? What do you think? It's a horse race, isn't it?
Yeah, I think but he's not on that much where you're on every day. So it's kind of hard to compare the two.
So you're suggesting when I thought that I'm obviously much worse.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I really gave you a hanging curveball that time, didn't I?
Yeah, the track record is there.
Yeah, you know what? I'm really good at defending myself unless I'm defenseless. And guess what? This is absolutely unequivocally defenseless. There's no question about it. While we wait for Sean, and give me a thumbs up when he comes in, I want to play J. Kyle Mann. He's a national guy, and he gets into Kentucky once a year. And so there's a couple of sound bites from Twitter that he pulled. And let's go to clip number one. This is J. Kyle Mann, a national guy who got inside Kentucky. Jimmy, give me a thumbs up when you have it. Bingo, here's clip number one.
There was an NBA GM in the house yesterday. I won't say who it was, but it's me speculating from a distance, I noticed that person watching Cam Williams, the 6'8", 6'9" transfer from Tulane, who was primarily a movement, catch and shoot kind of player, cutter, active defender. He is noticeably bigger than a year ago. And he's an interesting player because you can see why a GM would be watching him because of the size. There are things in compartments that are very intriguing about him. Catch and shoot, like I said, one dribble catch and shoot. Doesn't have the chicken wing, straight elbow, beautiful shot. And then you see him cutting to the basket and having the table set for him and exploding as a cutter. And wow, he was eye-popping at moments, but the problem with his game really is the middle eight, the bridge of the song, for him to put it all together, and that's just putting it on the floor. He's just not quite there yet.
Not quite there yet, okay? He has a comment about JQ, Mr. Quaitance, who everybody says is bigger, but the report about 40 pounds. I don't know about that, but he's obviously bigger and stronger and a little taller, so that's a beautiful thing. Here's his thought.
Then if Jaden Quaintance, who's on the sideline, who I think, holy moly, I don't know if he gained 40 pounds, but he definitely has gained some weight. He just has these big, broad shoulders. I'm just very excited to see what kind of a defender he is going to be because, like I said, he's going to be like a scheme versatile, I don't want to say blasphemous things, but a Bam Adebayo, Jalen Duren type who has the size to bang with bigs and the hip mobility to contest and bother shots. But Mo Diabate, if those things don't pan out with this roster and if they end up in a situation where their bigs aren't as reliable in the short term, he was a step or two ahead. Granted, he's older and he knows college basketball really well. He played in the up-tempo system with Nate Oates. This is a guy who played in the Final Four, productive player. He was just a couple steps ahead.
So he's a couple steps ahead. Now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Sean, I'll have you know that Jimmy's on your side that says you're better technically than I am. Hello, Sean Woods. Sean, are you there?
It says he's there.
It says he's there. I don't see him either.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. I think we lost Sean. We've had a week, haven't we, with this stuff?
Yeah, and it's only Tuesday.
I know. See, but you can't blame me for this, can you? I hear a voice in the background.
Yeah, you can. I heard you, Bubs.
Well,
yeah, you can. Yeah, I can blame you, Bubs. Yeah, I can.
I could barely see you. You look like you're in a cloud. I mean, as long as the audio is good, it doesn't help for our YouTube feed, but that's okay. Where are you? What country are you in?
I'm in my classroom.
Really?
I work now, Bubs.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, you're an honest man, banging on hard for a living. I respect that. Sean, the head coach of Scott County High. KSR did something about the altercations, and I want to talk to you about the psychology of an athlete and how athletes just don't forget. I don't think they forget. You got into an altercation in a Kentucky-Louisville game. Do you remember that, and with who?
Oh, Brewer.
And you're friends now, aren't you?
We were friends before then, friends right after, and grown friends now.
Okay, we're going to do this. Sean, we're going to go to a break, and we're going to call you because the quality of this is not very good. So let's go to a break, and we'll call Sean. I can live with not seeing your pretty face as long as I can hear you much better. Terry Page, a great healer, a great massage therapist, 859-373-0578. 859-373-0578. First couple days of the week in Butler, Kentucky. Then she's in Lexington the rest of the week. Sean, why don't you hang up and we're going to call you. We have to call you during the commercial break. And she charges $75 for 60 minutes. I know a lot of people charge more, and I've asked her a number of times. She said I could charge more easily, but I'd lose some of my patients, the people I need to help. That's the way she is. I think she should charge more. because of the skill that she has. And it's not like you can give massages 50 hours a week with your hands and stuff like that. Anyway, she's worth her weight in gold. Go to naturalhealingandpainrelief.com and you can set up an appointment to talk to her before getting an appointment to say what your problem is and how she can help you. Terry Page, great licensed massage therapist, 859-373-0578. Alan Cutler, 1300 AM, 92.5 FM.
No Filter Radio with Alan Cutler, brought to you by Quantrell Auto Group. QuantrellForLife.com.
Hi, this is Alan Cutler. Have a no filter comment? Hit the text line 859-381-1313. 859-381-1313.
Houchins Insurance Group is proud to partner with Auto Owners Insurance, a company that provides opportunity for independent agents to make insurance simple for their clients, offering risk management services that range from a renter's policy for your college student to home and auto coverage for your entire family. Houchins Insurance Group assures you that nobody works harder to keep you protected from life's uncertainties. Reach out to AJ Boss or Zach Bennett at 859-263-2771 to see if Auto Owners Insurance makes sense for you.
Hi, this is Alan Cutler. The Quantrell Auto Group has a great deal for this month. Subaru. The Outback is special, so check this out. 0%. That's right, 0% interest for 36 months. And if you want to spread it out to 72 months, 1.9%. What a deal. 0% interest for 36 months. Don't forget, the Quattro family of dealerships is the right place to get your next Subaru, and they promise you the best in sales, service, and no gimmicks.
My name is Terry Schultz, CEO for the Rutherford County Area Habitat for Humanity. Republic Bank has really been a game changer. They have invested not only financially, but time to really listen so that
Energy shots, 2 for $4.99, or Uncle Ray's potato chips, 8-ounce bags, 2 for $6.
Don't get sidelined without your supplies this football season. Clark's Pump and Shop. Return, refresh, refuel.
Back to No Filter Radio with Alan Cutler. Podcasts on Apple, Spotify, and Google, Monday through Friday.
Welcome back. Alan Cutler, 1300 AM, 92.5 FM. And now, ladies and gentlemen, a man who's in the rafters of Rupp. I can't see his face, but I bet I can hear his melodious voice. Former stud point guard for Kentucky, now head coach of Scott County High, Sean Woods. Hello, Sean.
Hello, Bubs.
How are you? So
I'm good, man.
As we were talking about, you got into a little altercation with James Brewer, a friend before that happened and a friend after the game. If he played for, let's say, Transylvania or Moorhead, would you have gotten into an altercation?
If the situations was the same, probably, yeah. Just the way it happened, just the way it happened in the heat of the battle, not more so, yeah, I mean, I'm a competitive guy and he is too. And, it was a situation where he came up under me and, and as I was taking a layup, he was late taking a charge. So he had to grab me kind of similar to what Magic Johnson did when he got under Dr. J and he just held him, but he held him and let him down softly, whereas Boo held me and then threw me off of him in midair, and I had to grab his shirt just so I don't get dumped on my head. And the fact that that happened, I forgot who he was, and hey, there it went.
But you got over it.
Oh yeah. It's the heat of the battle and things like that. But he and I were good friends before, and I was always close to those guys. At the University of Louisville anyway, him, Eric Sullivan, Cornelius Holden, Derwin Webb. So, and LeBradford Smith. It was just, one of those games where things happen and, that altercation popped off. But, it's water under the bridge.
Yeah. Okay. That's really cool. So now I have this theory. Look, I don't know what happened between Pope and Kelsey. Have no idea. From what I've been told, I don't believe there's fisters cuffs. I think anybody throwing that out, and apparently nobody is now, it's saying it's silly. My buddy Kendrick Haskins from Wave TV, who I respect a lot, does a wonderful job as sportscaster there, basically told me he did think something did happen, but they hugged it out afterwards, what he was told. And I could see that. But let me throw this at you. So you remember the Kentucky-Louisville game this year. And I said at the time, I stand by this. If Kelsey were 6'10", do you think Pope would have ended up putting him in a headlock?
That's not Pope's DNA. That's not who Pope is. I mean,
right, right, you're right. But he ended up in a headlock in the Kentucky-Louisville game. He did.
I don't know anything. You got me on that one. I didn't know anything about that.
Okay, well, the pictures are out there. It's not, and they both downplayed it. It was in the heat of the moment. I didn't think it was that big of a. I didn't, but I also know if somebody put somebody else in a headlock, you just don't forget it. Now this thing happened, and so I wonder. Not that they hate each other. First of all, I don't know, and I don't think so. I think they're two nice guys to do that. But I do think it could rub you the wrong way when there have been two things that have happened.
I mean, here's the deal. Louisville, Kentucky, okay? Kelsey at Louisville is a fiery guy. I could see him being cocky and rambunctious a little bit and talking stuff, and I can see that. I don't know him per se, but I can just reading the room a little bit, I can see that happening. I don't foresee Pope being a guy that talks down about other schools. Maybe he probably said something about, you know what I'm saying, the Louisville-Kentucky rivalry because he played at Kentucky. You know, so I can see one guy being that guy saying, hey, you know, you're the underdog and you're trying to overcome the stigma of, you know, Kentucky's brand being a little bit more than Louisville, but, you know, it's about the two coaches. So I can see one bad-mouthing the other, you know, but if somebody had to start a fight, I can't fathom Mark Pope starting a fight. I just can't fathom that. Now, I fathom Mark Pope defending himself, and if you poke that bear, I think Mark Pope's gonna come out biting. Now, he ain't no punk, you know what I'm saying, from that standpoint. So, if it got started, I guarantee you it didn't start from Mark Pope. If anything ever happened. Sorry
for stepping on you. I think what happened in the heat of the moment with the pushing and shoving that went on in the Kentucky-Louisville game, I think, you know, Pope was just trying to pull people away. And I think he got caught up with Kelsey. That's all it was. I never thought it was anything.
I can see that. And sometimes coaches can, in the heat of the moment, even though two players are going at the players or whatever, you still can say a couple things, you know what I'm saying, that can get those two coaches going at each other. So those things happen. You know what I'm saying? I mean, emotions are flying, especially in a rivalry situation like that. I mean, look at, you know, Don Chaney and John Calipari. Look at Coach Pitino and Dale Brown. Look at, you know what I'm saying? Look at me and another coach. You know, just things happen like that. I mean, it's
Chaney and Cal. I'm sorry for Chaney and Cal made up. They really did make up.
Exactly, because they knew that they were two unprofessional people. I mean, they were acting unprofessional in a situation that both of them were probably embarrassed and wish that it didn't happen. But hey, we're human. You know what I'm saying? And as the older I get, people do human things that people don't, you know what I'm saying, smile upon. But hey, everybody has emotions and feelings, and things happen. As long as you apologize and move on and don't dwell on it, hey, that's, you know, if God can forgive everybody, we can forgive everybody too.
That's a great way of putting it. And by the way, I'm not starting anything. I'm just saying it's going to be around because it's Kentucky and Louisville. That's all. You know,
it ought to be around. When those days get to ending and we're becoming too friendly in athletics, then we need to stop.
That's a great way of putting it. Let's put it this way. Suppose Pope stayed at BYU, okay? And Kelsey got hired here. I think Kentucky fans would really like him. Now, fans are saying, that's blasphemy. We love Pope and stuff like that. I'm not suggesting I'd want Kelsey over Pope. Pope looks like it's going to be like the perfect hire. We'll see as time goes on. But really, he looks like the perfect hire. But suppose he stayed at BYU. My point is this. I've said this for years. If Mike Krzyzewski, all the Kentucky fans who didn't like Krzyzewski because he coached Duke, if Krzyzewski was the coach of Kentucky for all those years, people would have loved him. They would have. But,
No doubt about it.
And if Kelsey
No doubt about it.
cheer and Pope was at BYU, I think people would love Kelsey because guess what? He can recruit and he can coach and he would bring this team back. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, you know, those two guys are just taking advantage of an opportunity, and you know, once you become part of something, you know, whoever Kentucky hired, whether it's Mark Pope, Kelsey, whoever, they will embrace him. Hell, they embrace John Calipari. So, you know what I'm saying? Whoever the coach may be or become, you know, why wouldn't the school embrace them, especially when they're trying to do good by the school and by the Commonwealth?
And they're both ranked in so many of the preseason, which is early nonsense, but we talk about it. Why not?
Great, you know, no doubt about it. They, you know, coaches will become better coaches when they get better jobs. I truly believe that, because when you get better jobs, you got access to better things and better players, which makes you a better coach.
Which is why some guys who move up from mid-major to a major shouldn't move up because they're getting a job at a bad school just to get a better paycheck, think they can change it, and then they don't succeed. They're out of a job, and they can't get the job on the same level that they had before. And we've both seen this many, many times.
Hey, you're speaking to one, so it doesn't, you know, that goes for the course. That's par for the course.
All right, let me ask you a question. James Blackman is coming on for the first time today. I know you know James. I know him back in the old day pretty well. Do you have a funny story I should ask James about? Something you remember?
I tell you what, he's still to this day the best high school basketball player I've ever seen play.
Whoa! Really?
James Blackman was one of the most talented guards I had ever seen. From an athletic standpoint, to a shooting standpoint, to a player standpoint, he was a natural. Unfortunately, you know, style of plays and players and coaches just don't mesh. And I just thought that, you know what I'm saying, and everybody thinks this who knows James Blackman and his game, that he came to the wrong school for the style of play he wanted to play. He came to a school that was, you know, and played for a coach that was dominant by, you know, who wanted to get the ball inside to Melvin Turpin and Sam Bowie and Kenny Walker, and his guards never flourished. And, you know, as much as they did in high school. And I thought James Blackman was the epitome of that.
Oh, I said it on TV and got some people really ticked off that I agree with you, went to the wrong school. If he went to a school where he was the man, he'd have been a first-round draft choice in the NBA. But sometimes, as you know, when you don't get picked at a certain level, you don't get looked at as you might in another way, especially back then. I've always thought that James Blackman is the best or as good as any player that Kentucky ever had. Not saying he's the greatest player Kentucky ever had. That's not what I'm saying. Who never got to flourish with his potential. I've said that.
No, because he never got the chance to be James Blackman in high school. He was here, and, you know, the style of play here was not suited for guards to be able to put the ball on the floor and be creative. And that's the type of player he was. And you come here and you be stagnant and you sit around, you try, you know, the main thing is to get it to either Turp in the high post or in the low post or Boo in the, you know, everything was surrounded by them. You know, between him and Dirk Minifield, those are the two who were so talented that the style of play, that coach's style of play just not suited them. It kind of harnessed them in their ability a little bit.
And he's turned out to be a heck of a high school coach. He's won state championships. I think it's plural.
How many high school coaches have won? I think, if I don't quote me, I think I'm right. You can ask them when you talk to them. Has won a state championship with all three of their sons.
Was it 3 or 2?
3. James Jr., VJ, and Jalen.
Okay, I remember 2, and I know he went back.
VJ's the one that VJ's the middle one.
Okay.
And I think he won a state championship with VJ too.
Not sure. I'm looking at the notes that I Googled, and it says 2, but that could be wrong. You know, Chat GPT is sometimes wrong. I will ask him. First of all, if he did it with 2, that's unbelievable. But if he did it with 3, whoo.
I mean, James Blackman has become one of the. Yeah, and he played for a big-time coach in Bill Green at Marion High School, who's got, who that Marion High School is a mystique when it comes to Indiana high school basketball.
Bill Green is considered
Bill Green.
Bill Green is considered one of the greatest high school coaches ever in Indiana.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. And he won 3 in a row with Jay Owens and Lyndon Jones, who both went to Indiana.
Talent isn't the same in Indiana anymore. Have you been to UK basketball practice, or you're too busy with your own team?
I'm too busy with my own team. I've had some people go over there and watch, but I haven't seen them or watched them since La Familia when we were going up against them in the summertime.
Okay. How's your team coming? You're going to win 25 games?
We'll see. We're working at it. I'll tell you that. We are working at it.
You sound like you're rejuvenated again because you're back on the court where you belong.
Well, being around basketball is like heaven to me on earth. You know what I mean? It takes all my problems and worries away by when you're in between those lines. And, not only am I was a player, but now me motivating and making other kids better is very refreshing to me. Taking them to places that they've never been before, putting them through things that they never done before, and getting them used to the world through basketball, being comfortable, getting comfortable being uncomfortable.
It's a great line. I like that. Getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, stretching the rubber band out, and it's never the same. You should be coaching when you're 70. I hope I'm around when you're 70, but you should be coaching when you're 70. Even if they have to put you in a wheelchair, as long as you have your big mouth and a whistle, you can still coach.
Hey, I love it, man. It's the only place. It's the closest thing to heaven for me, Alan.
Wow. That's a great line. Coaching is the closest thing to heaven for you. It's really good. Hey, Sean, thank you, Pally. I appreciate it. Good luck at Scott County. Let's keep in touch. And I think the Kentucky Louisville.
And tell Black what I said. He's still the best. Even Howard Garfinkel said it at 5-star camp. James Blackman and Pearl Washington are the 2 best guards to ever play at 5-star camp. And just think of how many big time guards that's gone through 5-star.
5-star was at that time was still the camp.
You were a Pitt guy. You saw those days. You remember those days over there.
Actually, I went and covered the 5-star camp.
But you've been over there. You know what it's about, though.
That's when the first time I interviewed Pitino. A long time ago. When
not only great players come through there, but great coaches too.
As a matter of fact, Gar said, "You want to talk to this Pitino guy?" I said, "Okay." I saw him play college basketball one time, which I did, by the way, in the old Garden. He was chunky when he played college ball.
Yeah, that's why he don't like being around chunky people. Everybody who's chunky, he gets him in shape.
He had long, floppy hair, and nobody uses this term today, but you're old enough, you'll know it. He was a chucker.
No doubt about it. He has no muscle tone. He had no muscle tone.
No, he didn't.
No cuts, no nothing. Yeah, I've seen tape of him, yeah.
Okay, so this is so long ago, like the Madison Square Garden now is old. This was the Garden before the Garden. And we were in the second to last row in the Garden. That's all we could afford. We were kids took the train to the city with 2 gamblers about 2 rows in front of us yelling, screaming, and cursing because I don't remember if they won or lost, but they probably were losing because they were yelling and stuff like that. And all I knew about Pitino was you look at the program. He's from Long Island. That's all I knew. He's chunky. Okay. Every time he gets the ball, he shoots it. That's what I remember. My best friend remembers that too. Because I remember when he became the Kentucky coach, Bobby calls me up and says, "Do you remember the time we sat in the second to last row and that short, chunky guard who wasn't very fast just kept on shooting all the time? He's now the Kentucky coach." I said, "Bobby, I remember." It's the truth. Hey, man, go back to your class. Go back to your school. It's good hearing your voice. I know you miss me because I miss you.
No doubt. No doubt about it. Always, buddy.
Thank you, Pally.
Talk to you soon.
Right on. Sean Woods.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Really good stuff. Really good stuff. Boo Brewer was a tough player. And back then, and I do remember that Sean was friends with those guys. They used to hang out and stuff like that, but on the court is on the court. The only thing I disagree with a little bit, that had Boot played for Transy or Moorhead, the intensity level would be different. That's what I was trying to communicate to him. But, you know, when you're playing Kentucky Louisville, the intensity is just higher. We all know that, and I think that's part of it, and that's okay. And I also think it's cool that they were friends before, and they were friends after the game, which is the perfect way to put it. Hey, your season, your shot. The NFL season is rolling, and every touchdown can bring you closer to a payout with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. From first touchdown scored to anytime TV props or the thrill of live in-game betting, every snap is loaded with opportunity. How about the Bengals in Denver? Man, they are tough to figure. They were so awful. And Jimmy, I don't know about you, but I'm surprised they're only 7-point underdogs. That's going to change. Lines change when they play Denver. Woo! I thought it'd be even higher. I know one game has nothing to do with another, and they have to show up because they didn't show up against Minnesota 48-10. I think the score was, it was embarrassing. Worst Bengals loss ever. So will they bounce back? I'm going to watch the lines closely with the Bengals-Denver game. Hey, by the way, that's not advice. New customers, this is for you. Bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Plus, score over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code LEXSports. That's code LEXSports to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you place your first $5 bet, plus over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 18 plus. Kentucky only. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. NFL Sunday Ticket offer for new subscribers only and auto renews until canceled. Digital games and commercial use excluded. Restrictions apply. Additional NFL Sunday Ticket terms at youtube.com/go/NFL Sunday Ticket/terms. Limited time offer. Alan Cutler. Thank you, Sean. 1300 AM, 92.5 FM.
The Alan Cutler Show on ESPN 92.5 and 1300 AM and on the ESPN Lexington app. Presented by Republic Bank.
Hi, this is Alan Cutler. Have a no-filter comment? Hit the text line, 859-381-1313. 859-381-1313.
Down, set, hack. Corn dogs coming in for the blitz.
Rick, what are you doing?
Brent, I'm practicing my snack plays for the next football game.
Well, in that case, Uncle Rick, stop by any Clark Stop and Shop and pick up 5-hour energy shots, 2 for $4.99, or Uncle Ray's potato chips, 8-ounce bags, 2 for $6.
Don't get sidelined without your supplies this football season. Clark's Pump and Shop. Return, refresh, refuel.
I'm Kathy Binkaman. Over the holiday, there was an attempted fraud attack. My personal banker, Mary Rose, and I networked together, and the first thing that I thought of was I have to text her. And it was just within the next few minutes, there was an entire team that came together collectively. And that's just not the type of service that you typically get from your bank.
That's Kathy's story. Now let's get to work on yours. Republic Bank. Time to thrive. Member FDIC.
Hi, this is Alan Cutler. The Quantrill Auto Group has a great deal for this month. Subaru. The Outback is special, so check this out. 0%. That's right, 0% interest for 36 months. And if you want to spread it out to 72 months, 1.9%. What a deal. 0% interest for 36 months. Don't forget, the Quattro family of dealerships is the right place to get your next Subaru, and they promise you the best in sales, service, and no gimmicks.
Houchins Insurance Group is proud to partner with Auto Owners Insurance, a company that provides opportunity for independent agents to make insurance simple for their clients, offering risk management services that range from a renter's policy for your college student to home and auto coverage for your entire family. Houchins Insurance Group assures you that nobody works harder to keep you protected from life's uncertainties. Reach out to AJ Boss or Zach Bennett at 859-263-2771 to see if Auto Owners Insurance makes sense for you.
Back to No Filter Radio with Alan Cutler. Podcasts on Apple, Spotify, and Google, Monday through Friday.
I came out of last year's practice saying that I thought Colin Chandler was the most all-around skill player that they had. People said I was crazy. I don't think that's crazy because he was in RSCI composite rankings. He was high. Wasn't that hot of a take, I don't think, but he's just getting his legs under him. Shoots a super easy ball. I think he's an underrated passer. It's just a handle, again, coming together for him, but I think he's going to find his way onto the floor.
There you have it. Good comments from J. Kyle Mann. from the Ringer. He got into Pope's practice last year, got in this year, had some thoughts. He put it on Twitter. And I think I'm just like everybody else. I have no idea how the heck all this playing time is going to be divided. I think it's going to be pretty obvious, really obvious, that you're going to see a different style this year, that you're going to see the style that Pope wanted last year, but you didn't have anybody bring up the ball that quickly. And because they're going to be running so much, you can get more minutes for at least a couple more guys. Will it keep everybody happy? I doubt it. But we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully everybody's healthy, and then you kind of go from there. I think he said that Yelovich was on the second team when he was watching, and that could be switching all the time. But when he was there, it was on such second team. And he said that Yelovich needs more strength. And then when he was there, he wasn't shooting well. Okay. Does that mean he's not shooting well all the time? No, it's one practice. So I take that with a grain of salt. But I could see Yelovich needing the training and the weightlifting and that kind of thing. And he's big on Chandler. And Chandler, I think, is going to be much better for obvious reasons. Weight, eating better, further away from the 2-year mission. He might be 1 year away from being a star. That's going to be my guess. But I think you're going to see much more out of Colin Chandler this year. How much? Don't know. Last soundbite from him is about Jasper Johnson.
Jasper Johnson is going to be another guy who I think it's going to be a longer term bet with him because he is so skinny. He's going to need to develop that right hand and kind of like balance his attack. People always say the D'Angelo Russell thing, and you can kind of see where that's coming from. Wispy, fluid, kind of connectivity in his game. Bucket getter, falls in between the camps, not like a pure facilitator. I think he's just going to be one of those guys who scores in spurts rather than getting leaned on heavily, where you're just like, damn, that was a nice run, and Jasper had 8 points during that 2.5 minutes. I think you're going to see some moments like that.
I asked Brandon Ramsey about that, but if you want to compare him to D'Angelo Russell, he's had a really nice NBA career. I think Jasper's going to be a better player. I think he's smarter. I think he'll play more defense. I think he does have to get much stronger, and I think he will with time goes on. And Jimmy, I found that comparison interesting for a guy who at times gets hot in the NBA, but sometimes he can't spell defense. I see Jasper playing harder on defense next year than probably D'Angelo Russell has his entire career. So, the comparisons are made because of the offense, not for the overall play. Just like, going to the Hall of Fame, how often does anybody say, well, but he was such a great defensive player? Occasionally, but rarely. I mean, seriously, rarely. So, I don't think the world will come to an end if Jasper realizes he's got to get stronger and the following year he ends up playing a ton more. Could I see that happening? Sure, but I'm going to be open-minded to anything. I think going in with preconceived notions with all these kids, because guess what always happens? Somebody surprises you. They just do. And somebody in your mind that you might have thought of too highly kind of disappoints. It's okay. It's the ebb and flow of people. It's the ebb and flow of what goes on. By the way, I thought it was interesting. He said they're calling Braden Hawthorne, they're calling him Noodles. What do you think of that nickname? Noodles. Skinny. Noodles. Skinny. You're smiling.
Yeah, I like Noodles. It used to always just be like a beanpole is what everyone would call the tall, skinny kid. But Noodles, I like that.
Beanpole, yes, in the old days. I'm pausing on you, Jimmy, because I wonder if that's a new thing now. Different generations, different things and all that kind of thing. I have no idea. Can you think of a player ever called Noodles?
No, which is hard these days to have a first time that you hear a nickname. Most of the time you just reuse the same nickname, but first time I've ever heard somebody called Noodles.
I bet somebody will ask either Hawthorne or somebody else next time they're available as to who gave him the nickname, because there's got to be a pretty good story there. But here's the thing. Cal Raleigh with Seattle, his nickname is
Big Dumper.
Yeah, and I guess he's accepted it because it's going to stay with him, obviously, the rest of his life. But it sure seemed like from some sound of some stuff I read, I started reading the Seattle papers a little bit just because of Cal and what he was doing and in the race at the time trying to catch Johnny Bench. This was obviously weeks and weeks ago. And I sort of got the feeling he didn't like that nickname at all. And then it gets to a point, there's nothing you can do. You're stuck with it. You're labeled. And I think he's accepted it. But that nickname is going to stay with him, I think, the rest of his life. Don't you think? I mean,
yeah, the one thing he did say, his mom's not a big fan of it. So that might be. And he's a very reserved, quiet guy to begin with. So it's probably just the attention in general that he gets uncomfortable with.
You know, and that's a really good point because I think he's better off playing in Seattle than in New York. The pressure, I don't know if you've ever been to the stadium in Seattle. It's been years, but it's a beautiful stadium. As a matter of fact, they were very progressive with different kinds of food and stuff like that. I've probably been to 3 or 4 games out there. It's really a lovely place to watch a game. But pressure in Seattle with reporters and stuff like that is totally different from New York. Totally different. I don't know what the perfect place is, but he's obviously comfortable there. And you know what? They've done a hell of a job there. I mean, they're dangerous when it comes to playoffs. But I guess I wouldn't like being saddled with a nickname that I didn't like. That would bother me, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it bother you?
Yeah, because it's nonstop. And then you had, this was a couple months ago, but I think it was during the Yankee game, the camera just zoomed directly in on his butt while he was standing at first base as they're talking about him. It's like, that's the kind of stuff where he's just got to feel weird. Like, why is it zooming all the way in?
Did they? I didn't know.
Yeah. Paul O'Neill even commented, like, all right, I don't think we need to keep going on that, guys.
Yeah.
It's just a weird.
That's too far.
Yeah.
Really, that's too far. I mean, would they have done that to Mickey Mantle if they called him Big Dumper? I don't think so. That's almost taking a guy and saying, I can play with you because you're not on a certain level. I don't like that, actually. I don't like that. I have told the story about George Burns before, Q, for you to get this. This is an old clip from Johnny Carson. And he's just a funny guy. And he taught me one of the great lessons of my entire career about being nervous. And I've told the story once or twice here. And I just happened to catch this the other day, so I'm throwing it out there. So this clip is from when he was 93. And I'm pretty sure the clip that I talk about, I just happened to see that night, he was 96. And sharper than a you-know-what. And you never saw him without a cigar. Never, ever, 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 ever without a cigar. And he ended up smoking more cigars per day than even I thought. I thought he was smoking like 8, 10 cigars. Jimmy, can you imagine smoking a dozen cigars a day when you're in your 90s?
No. I couldn't imagine doing it in your 30s.
Well, not only that, but at a certain point in life, your body is used to it. And so therefore you could actually get sick if you didn't have it, because after 50 years, whatever is going to happen to your body is going to happen to your body. And he was such a positive guy, which I think it helped him out tremendously. So Carson asked him one night, do you still get nervous? And he said, the day I don't get nervous, I'm going to quit. And he explained that all nervous is negative energy. That's all it is. And so when you go up to perform, look, a teacher has to perform, right? A coach has to, you say perform, but he's got to talk in front of their team. So many people in life, not just broadcasting, get up and do things, and you have to perform. And so you get a rush. And so that really helped me in my entire career, that I like getting an energy rush. But to me, it's not nervous, it's excitement. So this is just a little funny bit talking about Burns and smoking with Johnny Carson.
What number of cigar is this for you today now?
This is my 10th or 11th cigar. I smoke between 15 and 20 cigars a day.
Yeah.
And it's very exciting.
Yeah.
At 93, if I can get it into a holdup.
Well, it's the little things in life. Now, George, hasn't your doctor said to you, now, George, you got
my doctor is dead.
I love that. My doctor is dead. So Brandon Ramsey, I don't know if you heard that, but you can't top that. Did you hear the George Burns thing?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so it was a clip from Burns. I'm not going to go through the whole thing again. There was a reason why I was doing the Burns thing, but he's 93 years old, and he says he smokes 12 to 15 cigars every day. And so Carson goes, what does your doctor say? He goes, he's dead. Brandon Ramsey, how are you?
I'm doing well, Alan. Thanks for having me on again.
No, long time no see. The beard, you still got the beard? And
yeah, we're coming back in.
You coming back in? You let go for the summertime?
Yeah, a little bit. Got to trim it down and stay cool. But yeah, we're heading back in the beard direction.
There you go. So you always have Coach Brandon Ramsey some inside poop on Kentucky, whether you've been to practice or not. One, have you been to practice? And two, I know you got some inside poop from talking to people. So were you there, and what do you know?
I have not been to practice, but from everything that I've heard from some people that have been in the doors, I think there's a lot to be excited about. I think a lot of the things that we that have been out there are certainly true. I think Jalen Lowe is playing at a really high level and probably shooting it in a way that some people are going to be pleasantly surprised by, at least for Kentucky fans. I think that Malachi Moreno continues to show some good things. I mean, heck, we all saw that dunk from the 30-second practice clip or whatever from day one. That alone was pretty impressive. Mo Diabate, Denzel Aberdeen, the things that those guys can do just in terms of stepping in right away with Final Four championship level pedigrees, the way Trent Noah is shooting the ball, kind of the year two leap that we're all expected from Colin Chandler. I think that you're seeing that a lot of the things that we as fans wanted to see, also probably some of the things that media people kind of had hypothesized that they hoped to see or wanted to see or needed to see for Kentucky. I think that you're hearing that a lot of those things are kind of turning out to be true. Some of that, always can be some preseason propaganda, but from the people that I've talked to, I think it's more than that. I think that you're seeing a legitimate, top 5 to 10 team in college basketball in the early stages of coming together here in the preseason.
So, look, I have no idea how you keep all these kids happy. I think one thing is obvious. Their pace is going to be much faster, and I think we'll see the pace of what Pope wanted last year, which means if you play this not exactly like a hockey team where you have to run in guys in and out a ton, I bet you still have to run guys in and out, but not like a hockey game. You can get minutes for a couple more guys and really stretch it out to 8 or 9. And could I see 8 or 9 guys getting close to 15 minutes? I can. But I don't know how you keep everybody happy, and I don't know who the hell is going to start. And I think we have this premonition of people that we really don't know, and we don't know what Pope is looking for. And I think to guess on the starting lineup, I think it's easy to guess the veterans per se, and will he want to go defense, and you could change your lineup based upon offensive and defensive guys. Two things. I'm going to be fascinated if he changes the lineup a lot based upon who they're playing more so than a lot of other coaches, because that would be him to be different like that. And the other thing is, I don't know how the hell it'll be a big topic between now and they start playing games. How are you going to keep everybody happy? I have no clue.
I think a big part of that piece of it, it's probably twofold. One, I think that, and you and I have talked about this before on the show, I believe, one of the things I respect so much about Coach Pope and this Kentucky staff right now is I think that they are very honest in the recruiting process. That's not to say that other people are always selling you a bill of goods, because that's not true either. That's not in the long run how you get top players. But I think that he probably has delved into, especially for those guys that might be, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 on the totem pole. I think that not that they're happy with being in that role, but I think that they know that it's more likely than not that they will be in that role. And then the second part of it is that, everything's probably a little bit easier to swallow down the NIL era, where I think some of those players lower down the totem pole at Kentucky are making more money than they ever could have made elsewhere, because Coach Pope values the developmental piece of a Braden Hawthorne or whoever it may be. So, but I really think, and we could all be proven wrong if things blow up throughout the season. I'll be surprised if that happens. But I think that there's a level of trust between the recruits that are now on the team and the staff that, like, hey, even if it doesn't work out for you this year, here's the path that you're going to take, and it's going to be worth it for you to kind of take your lumps this season and maybe not play the minutes that you wish you could play or that you could have played elsewhere. And I think that trust and that honesty will play out to kind of keep this group as cohesive, because you're right. It's really hard when you have guys, and I've said it this way before, like when you have guys that can play doesn't necessarily mean that they will play. Just because you're good enough to play in the games doesn't mean that you're going to crack the rotation, because you're not going to play 12 or 13 guys. And I think that for those people that are on that fringe, it obviously can be really difficult.
When's the last time you heard a player with a nickname Noodles?
That's a different one. I heard you talking about that a little bit just right as we were coming on. That's a unique nickname for sure. It's fitting though. It's fitting though, right?
Absolutely fitting, and I'm good with it. Why would I be bad with it? I'm curious if this is like a different generation nickname. That this wasn't a nickname when you played and when you were coaching. It's certainly not a nickname from the 1940s when I was playing half-court basketball. So I just wonder if this is just kids coming up with something that's very apropos. Would you like if anybody called you Noodles? I guess I would like it because that means I'd be a lot skinnier.
I was going to say, I think, yeah, at this point in my life, I'd probably take that. Sure.
There's a cute story there somewhere. Somebody's getting asked Hawthorne or another player about it, that kind of thing. And the couple things that I've heard from 3 or 4 people that he just does things that are most unusual. And you wonder if he's never going to be thick, but if he was stronger in whatever, would he force his way in? But when you keep on hearing he's doing some things that other people can't and don't do on the court, aren't you wondering why he might have to wait his turn? Although, again, let me stop myself. I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just comes back to the insane amount of depth, and like, somebody has to be that 12th, 13th, 14th guy. And I think it's more practical for him to fall into that than others. But you're absolutely right. You hear, some of these kind of wow stories from Braden Hawthorne that maybe, even some of the star players on the team, he's able to make some plays that they can't or aren't consistently. Now, I think you absolutely still see some of the growing pains with that as well. But man, I mean, like, you see some of these pictures, like, this dude's like 6'9", 6'10", it seems like now. Like, he is tall and long, and he's able to do some things with the ball in his hands that are pretty special. And I think that, hopefully what I was talking about with the trust and kind of the developmental plan over years 1, 2, maybe 3, I really hope that he truly buys into that and continues to buy into it, because this time of year, it's really easy to, or even in the recruiting process, it's really easy to hear the coach tell you, like, hey, like, you're going to really have to compete for playing time. It might not be there for you. Okay, coach, yeah, I hear you. And then when November, December, January rolls around and you're not playing in the games, that's a whole different feeling than when you're just kind of being told you might not play in the games. So I think, continuing to accept his role throughout the season is going to be very, very, very important for him, because I do think he could be a special player, 12, 18, 24 months from now.
You don't believe for a second that Bruce Pearl woke up 2 days ago and said, I don't have the energy to coach anymore, do you?
I do not. I would not say I know Coach Pearl personally. We do have some coaching tree background, shared limbs that honestly come from him. One of my bosses worked for Coach Pearl at University of Southern Indiana. So I've spent some time with him. So I probably like him more than a lot of Kentucky fans. But
I
no,
like Pearl. I've always liked Pearl.
Yeah, and I think he's a great coach, and but there was always it probably over the last 5 or so years, it became very important to him to make sure that Stephen Pearl was a head basketball coach, whether that was at Auburn or whether that involved Coach Pearl going somewhere else and making him the coach in waiting. I think that he was going to do whatever was in his power to make sure that happened. And that honestly became almost priority number 1 for him, was making sure that that set up the way that he wanted it. So I think that probably he just finally got it, in writing or verbally or whatever, that, hey, we're ready to roll with Stephen. And I think the moment that could have happened 2 years ago, that could have happened 2 years from now. I think whatever day that happened was the day that he was going to get out, and it finally happened. So no, I don't think it was some, grand epiphany. I think it was honestly something that he had been working towards making happen over the course of years, honestly.
I would bet that there were a number of conversations privately that Pearl had with his administration, because If he screwed them, and I don't think he did, I don't know, but this to me is obvious. Why would they be keeping him on?
Right.
It's an
Exactly.
ambassador. If you screwed him, that would say, and by the way, I don't know if he's going to go into politics or not. I think he wants to, but I don't know if he will. I got that from a decent source. I wouldn't take that to the bank, but I believe he wants to. Otherwise, he wouldn't have. They've done some research to check it out, neither here nor there. Look, here's the point. I get Bellarmine is not Auburn. We all get that. But, Scotty Davenport, who everybody loves, you don't like Scotty Davenport, you got a problem. So he set it up so his son would take over. And how many head coaching jobs did his son have?
0.
Bingo. And made him the coach in waiting. And Scotty did such a great job at Bellarmine. They agreed to it, and they kept their word. I'm assuming it was in writing. I don't know that. But the point is, it can be your first job and be just fine. Look, people commenting about Stephen, you know this. He went from the ground up for his dad. He didn't all of a sudden sit next to his dad and become the defensive coordinator. He basically was a grunt on up with an advantage because of his dad. Of course, there's nothing wrong, but my understanding, he worked his way up. And he's been the defensive coordinator. And Pearl has made it very clear, probably partly because of his son, that he has an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator. And you've seen how many times Stephen got up and was coaching the players, whatever, all with his dad's blessings and stuff like that. I think he's ready. Todd Golden, I thought was a great hire at Florida when they made it. They're very close. They played on 2 professional teams, one in Australia, one in Israel together. They were on the same staff together. I think he's ready. I'm not going to say he's going to be better than his dad or as good as his dad. Dad's a Hall of Fame coach, as far as I'm concerned. And so to say he's going to be just as good, but I have no problem with him getting the job, and I have no problem if his dad helped him if you're worthy. And obviously, Auburn thinks it's worthy. They're not just going to hand him the job because of his dad. That's BS, anybody who thinks that.
Yeah, I mean, I look to when you compare the time spent as an assistant coach or kind of the path, like John Shire had not any more experience when he got the Duke job, which is obviously a much more high profile job than Auburn basketball. And, nobody really made a stink about John Shire getting the job.
Good
so
point.
I think that Stephen Pearl, and the other thing I like about Stephen Pearl's path too, not only was he the strength and conditioning coach and then the director of basketball operations, then an assistant coach, he wasn't a coach his first 3 years out. He was a medical sales rep. That means that this guy wanted to come back and become a coach. He tried to make his own path and decided, you know what, I want to be a basketball coach. It wasn't like from day one he took the easy route of just saying, you know what, I'm going to be a GA for my dad, and then I'm going to go be a coach. Like, no, he went, and there's a lot of medical device salespeople that make a heck of a lot of money. So he probably was making decent money and decided, you know what, I want to go grind and be a basketball coach. And his dad brought him up through the program. And I think, if you talk to people around college basketball, he's very respected as a recruiter. He's a big reason why Auburn has been able to get 4 and 5 stars and McDonald's All-Americans over the last couple of years. And then he's one of the best defensive scouting report sort of guys, not just in the SEC, but probably in the country at this point. And, I always think, anytime that you get some of these, kind of built-in advantages, nepotism always gets thrown around. But, why is it not probably a good thing to be Bruce Pearl's son and get to learn from Bruce Pearl as opposed to just being, somebody else? Like to me, that's a really good problem to have, that you spent your whole life around a Hall of Fame basketball coach. To me, that's, that's a benefit to Stephen Pearl getting the job, not something that should be looked at as, a reason to not respect him.
Yeah, learn from your dad and a Hall of Fame coach. Gee, what a terrible thing. I look at it this way. Jack Buck was one of the greatest announcers of all time. His son's a pretty good network announcer. Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Well, when his son started, you know what his first gig was?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. I find this interesting, and he was terrible. Okay. He was doing play-by-play for Louisville AAA baseball.
Oh, okay.
And the way I understand it, it was done as a favor for his dad. He'd been in the booth with his dad as a kid. You want to be like your dad and stuff like that. And he was terrible. I heard him 3 or 4 times listening in the car, just to curious, okay, was it done as a favor? Yes, but he'd been around the Cardinals his whole life. And they knew he would probably end up being really, really good. I then tuned in the second year. He was really good. He was really good. And one of the things that I was told by a guy named Gordon, who was a New York announcer for a long time, I walked into his office. had really long hair. It was skinny back then, graduated college. And I go up to his desk. I got to see him. And I said, how do I start? He said, kid, you got to go somewhere and be bad. I'll never forget that line. And he'd done the Knicks and the Rangers and all that kind of stuff. And so I went someplace to be bad. I went to Farmington, New Mexico, which ended up being a great experience, but neither here nor there. So he had an advantage. Jack Buck's son, you know what they paid him the first year?
Nothing. Not much.
Nothing.
Yeah, or okay, nothing. Yeah.
Nothing as a favor for his dad. But they knew he would end up being really good. And so I remember that some people say, well, he had an advantage because of his dad. I'm going, you know what? I wish I had that advantage. Exactly. And I was never jealous because guess what? He's one of the greats of our generation. He earned it. Now, was the door open? Yeah. So I didn't have a door open like that. But I wouldn't have, I'd never, not only do I not begrudge him, and I don't even know him, not begrudge him, I wish I had that. So people that say, well, you're just daddy's boy, that stuff drives me nuts.
Yeah. No, I think in a lot of situations, it's just unfair. And it's people that are jealous of the opportunities. And, some of that I can wrap my head around it. I get it why people feel like that. But I don't think that there's nothing that we've seen so far to believe that Stephen Pearl's not going to be a qualified, very good basketball coach at Auburn.
And they give him a 5-year contract. Here's the other thing. The next 30 days are huge because a lot of people are just finding about the rule that that when a coach leaves, there's a 30-day window that anybody can transfer. And so now if 10 guys leave, okay, that's speaking something. But he helped recruit these kids. I bet they've had conversations with all these kids. And it's done at this point in time because leaving now isn't easy. That doesn't mean somebody might not leave if you're ticked off. And if nobody leaves, to me, that speaks volumes of what these kids on the team think of Stephen.
100%. I think, you're absolutely right. I think you're obviously going to see teams across the country, make some phone calls and back channel and try to, try to steal somebody from there. But I think that with the work that Stephen did on the recruiting trail to get those guys there, knowing how involved he is on a day-to-day basis in practice, they're already hearing his voice as a coach constantly, and also knowing some of the way that Bruce Pearl operates. Like, I don't think that the team woke up and found out on Twitter. Like, they had an idea that this was coming to some extent. Not that they weren't still maybe a little bit surprised, like, oh shoot, I didn't know it was going to happen today. But I think that they were all ready for the idea that they might be kind of playing for Stephen Pearl in one way or another. So yeah, yes, will it be kind of a shot to Auburn? Obviously, if some of these guys leave, absolutely. But I'll be surprised if anybody overly important to their success ends up leaving at this point.
Yeah, we're agreeing too much today. Last one, the Pope Kelsey thing. Is this blown up nothing? I have been told, and I don't know, that there were some. Now I've talked to 3 or 4 people, but gave Jacob of KSR credit because he's the one that confirmed it, and we had him on the air. Give him whatever, but that doesn't stop me from sending texts out like you're doing, and you're talking to people, that kind of stuff. Do you think it was just words? Kendrick Haskins of Wave TV text me. I don't think he minds me saying it. Kendrick's coming on next week. He's a dear buddy. He said, he thinks they had words, but they hugged it out when it was over. Or do you think it's possible these 2 coaches conjured to make this story up just to see how far it would go, like an April Fool's joke?
I wouldn't 100% put it past it, but I don't think that was the situation here. I think, I've never been in that exact situation, but coaching and recruiting is a incredibly competitive atmosphere. And then especially when you put logistics and schedule. I mean, heck, this was happening at midnight. These guys are already running on 10 cups of coffee. They know they have a flight to catch on the back end. Like, they're amped up. They're frustrated in the moment. And yeah, it's 2 guys who I think, have big personalities that, but also I think kind of have a respect for each other and maybe even a little bit of a kind of behind closed doors friendship. And I think that you saw them get frustrated with one another. I'm sure some words were exchanged because it's always like, it's a delicate situation. Like, there's kind of a lot of unwritten rules to how you handle recruiting stuff. And if one party or the other felt like that something was broken there, that's just the way that kind of stuff works. But at the end of the day, it's not something that either one of them is going to, come to blows about or, going to begrudge them for the rest of their career about. I think it's one of those things that honestly probably happens a lot, behind closed doors in recruiting. This happened to happen at a recruit's house, so maybe it got out there a little bit more. But no, I I think it's a fun story, especially because the Kentucky Louisville rivalry, and I don't blame us all for kind of running with it because it just helps lift up the rivalry. But no, I don't think it's a big deal to either one of them as we sit here today.
I think we're making a bigger deal of it what it is, but I stand by this. I stand by this. I stand by this. If Kelsey were 6'10", I want you to think about this. In the Kentucky Louisville game, when there was some pushing and shoving, and both coaches were trying to break it up. So that's pretty obvious. But somehow, in the heat of the moment, you've seen the picture. I saw it live, was going, holy blank, 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 blank. And Kelsey ended up in a headlock. I think it just sort of happened. I'm not accusing Pope of anything. I'm just not. But would Kelsey have been in a headlock if he was 6'10"? And I got one more for you. These guys are great competitors, and they're smart, and they're positive, and they're both rebuilding big-time programs on a dime. Okay? You don't forget, when somebody 6'10" puts you in a headlock, I don't give a crap what anybody says. That doesn't mean Kelsey's throwing darts on the wall with Pope's face on it. I'm not blowing something not, but I don't think you forget. You can't, on the one hand, say you're a competitor, and then on the other hand, forget that, and then this happens. So it's called muscle memory, as you know, and one amplifies the other. And I'm not backing down for it. I'm not saying I'm not trying to make a big deal of it, but I am saying 1 and 1 does equal 2.
Absolutely. And I mean, this isn't stoking the flames, but like when you spend your life as a smaller dude like Coach Pat Kelsey has, like you remember that stuff 10 times more because you've always been, kind of poked and prodded and made fun of for some of that stuff. So yeah, when your rival head coach, there's viral pictures of him having you in a headlock. That's not the greatest look in the world for Pat Kelsey. Is it a big deal? No. But like you don't want that picture out there just as a man or as the head basketball coach at Louisville or anything. So no, I think he remembers that stuff and yeah, is he gonna, take that and kind of poke and prod back when he gets the opportunities? Absolutely, but that's the way it should be. Like these are two big time basketball coaches right down the road from each other. And I think they both are good people, great coaches, have good personalities about it. Like there should be some of this kind of back and forth kind of fun jabs. And if sometimes it escalates a little bit above that, that's part of it.
Actually, when I first saw the story, I thought it was AI generated.
Yeah. Well, you always have to be careful about that now.
Yes.
You always have to double check the Twitter accounts. And
Yes.
Yep.
You got to be careful. Okay, Brandon Ramsey, give yourself a great plug. It's good hearing your voice and chatting again.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good to be here, Alan. You can follow me on Twitter at BRamseyKSR. That's the best place to stay up to date with everything that we're doing. But all the written work goes on KentuckySportsRadio.com. Obviously, basketball is right around the corner. So all that'll be heating up here pretty soon. You can follow the KSR Twitter or YouTube account on Kentucky Sports Radio there as well. My own show, the Coach Brandon Ramsey, or the Brandon Ramsey College Basketball Show on YouTube. Subscribe there as well. And again, all that gets promoted through my Twitter at BRamseyKSR.
Thank you, Pally. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Anytime, Alan. Thanks,
man. Have a great day. Brandon Ramsey does a wonderful job with his analysis of basketball. Follow him. Just got a text from Maurice Douglas Sr. He's going to be on Monday at 12:30. He had something come up. We'll keep that between us, and I wish him the best of luck. And he was a studly DB for Kentucky. Man, he could hit. I think he played 11 years in the NFL, 9 for the Bears, I think. He's a hell of a player. He's big-time high school coach, and I like his Twitter feed. He's very religious, and I've heard nothing but wonderful things about him from when he was here to when he left and all that kind of stuff. So he will join us Monday, just doing a little going down memory lane. I believe James Blackman, is he in the hopper? We'll take a break.
He is not in yet.
Okay, I will give him a text and let you know about my friend Ramon at Blue Lotus Health, 859-533-0914, 859-533-0914. Acupuncture, now also providing a licensed massage therapist. Ramon, please use my name, Ramon Carriega. He's a special dude. He's a healer. He's helped me not a little, but tremendously. On Versailles Road, ridiculously smart man. Very, very, very smart. He knows what he's doing, and he's helped me. It's pretty simple. 859-533-0914. Alan Cutler, 1300 AM, 92.5 FM.
No Filter Radio with Alan Cutler, brought to you by Quantrell Auto Group. QuantrellForLife.com.
Hi, this is Alan Cutler. Have a no filter comment? Hit the text line, 859-381-1313. 859-381-1313.
Down, set, hack, corn dogs coming in for the blitz.
Rick, what are you doing?
Brent, I'm practicing my snack plays for the next football game.
Well, in that case, Uncle Rick, stop by any Clutch Stop and Shop and pick up assorted Reese's king-size candy bars, 2 for $4, and Sour Patch or Swedish Fish peg bags, 2 for $6.
Don't get sidelined without your supplies this football season. Clark's Pump and Shop. Return, refresh, refuel.
Hi, this is Alan Cutler. The Quantrell Auto Group has a great deal for this month. Subaru. The Outback is special, so check this out. 0%. That's right, 0% interest for 36 months. And if you want to spread it out to 72 months, 1.9%. What a deal. 0% interest for 36 months. Don't forget, the Quantrell family of dealerships is the right place to get your next Subaru, and they promise you the best in sales, service, and no gimmicks.
Houchins Insurance Group is proud to partner with Auto Owners Insurance.
Welcome back. Alan Cutler, 1300 AM, 92.5 FM. We had scheduled, who said he was excited to do it, but James Blackman, right now he's not answering the phone or coming in, so hopefully we'll hook him up in a couple minutes or try to do it next week. By the way, breaking news, Mike Gundy's fired. Boom. Oklahoma State. And I saw a soundbite last night where he said, I ain't leaving. I'm going to be here the rest of my contract unless they get rid of me. So Oklahoma State, which has lost 11 of their first 12 games, going back to 2024, fired their longtime coach. I saw the other day, Jimmy, what the buyout was. It was extremely high, and he actually took a salary cut to continue coaching. And he did a hell of a job there. Whatever it was, he's lost his touch. I know he's complained that they didn't have the NIL money. You know, Boone Pickens, when he was alive, basically funded Oklahoma State. A lot of people know that. And when he passed, things changed there. You know, it's difficult replacing a billionaire. And plus Gundy, you know, he's Oklahoma State all the way. He rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And a lot of the rubbing actually helped him out early on because you're trying to beat Oklahoma. And Oklahoma is the king. Bud Wilkerson in the 50s, they were the best team in college football. Their two streaks that they had was just ridiculous. And so He's trying to become a have in a state where one school owns a state like crazy, and he was edgy. And I think it worked a lot. In the process, he apparently ticked some people off. And here's what happens over time. A longevity factor starts popping in. And then when that occurs, it's trouble. Jimmy, if you see how much you're going to have to pay him, it's double figures. And you know, I don't feel sorry for these guys that way with the amount of money they have. But if you love doing it, it's got to be difficult because whatever that touch was in recruiting, he lost it. He absolutely lost it. I don't think he's forgotten how to coach. That's usually my temperature with most people. I'm not there, but I don't think he's had the talent that he's had in the past. And he had some really good talent. Do you have a number, Jimmy?
Yeah, so his contract doesn't have a percentage buyout. Gundy's deal has a flat rate buyout structure. If he's fired within the first 3 years of the deal, Oklahoma State will pay him $15 million. And I believe that was the deal that the extension he signed, I think, last year. The deal runs through 2028. So if he was fired in the fourth year, it would have been $10 million.
And a lot of times these numbers go down like they did for Cal and other people, and that's pretty normal. But I also understand this. He, under pressure to keep his job, agreed to take less in this year and shorten the contract. And I don't remember what the buyout was before this extension, but it was for more than $15 million. He's got $15 million. He's made a ton, whatever. You know, what'll be fascinating is, first of all, I think he'd be very good on television. Now, the only problem might be, Jimmy, can you imagine his filter?
They'd probably have to remind him a couple times about live television.
Yeah, and I think you could do it with that, and it's still different when you're sitting on television commenting about somebody else versus your own thing. But I think he's got a future. And look, I don't know the guy. I don't feel bad for the guy. I mean, has he made $100 million, whatever? That's not an easy job. It's not an easy job at all. And I would venture to say that the odds are the next coach isn't going to be winning 10 games a year anytime soon. I just don't think so. I think it's a difficult place. And what you're going to see now, you're going to have more haves and have-nots. There's no question about it. I think it's Texas Tech. They've got a billionaire that's giving him so much money. It's incredible. I think they signed 7 new defensive players for a ton of money. And now Texas Tech is a school that should win and is expected to win. And think about it. Can they jump over A&M? Can they jump over Texas? Can they jump over Oklahoma? Can they jump over Alabama? I mean, think about it. But they are going for it big time. So McGuire's a good coach. He's a very good football coach. But the pressure will be on him to deliver tremendously. And I guess I'd rather have that pressure than not pressure. Look, I don't think Nick Saban could go in and win 10 games with the Oklahoma State talent. I just don't. I just don't. The world has changed. It really has changed the way things are. And there are going to be a lot of schools that are going to be in debt big time. Big time. Kentucky, South Carolina. I was wrong. I had it in my notes that South Carolina had 9 yards rushing against Missouri. It was pointed out to me yesterday, it was minus 9 yards by my dear friend Rick Henry. That had to be my vision missing that one. And so South Carolina is an interesting school. Really, since Steve Spurrier, they haven't really done much. And I thought it was fascinating that Rick Henry yesterday was talking about how some people didn't like how Spurrier left because he felt it was time. He felt he lost his touch. And it took Spurrier a while to build it up. Then he had a few years winning 11 games, and they haven't gotten back to that. And it seemed to me, and I didn't know there was a hangover effect. So when Rick Henry said that, and he would know I wouldn't, that there was a hangover effect, that there were some people to this day mad about how Spurrier left. And to me, I never understand that. Unless there's some hidden thing with Spurrier, and he's pretty transparent, he just thought he couldn't communicate to the kids, and he thought he kind of lost his touch, and he thought it was time to get out. So he did. And for people in South Carolina to still, after all these years, some be upset at him, to me, it baffles me. I don't get it. I don't understand it. Instead of saying, hey, look, Steve, We're not Alabama. We aren't Florida. And Florida wasn't Florida until Spurrier showed up. But you did a heck of a job here. And I think you should be appreciated. And I think there's a lot of ungrateful fans. I really do. Do the South Carolina people think that they should be Alabama? And here's what's going to happen. There's no doubt in my mind that if Beamer loses the next couple of games from him being the golden boy, they're going to be on his case. They're absolutely going to be on his case. I got to tell you, the Titans, I really thought when Callahan went to become the coach of the Titans, I said I thought it was a good hire. I thought Callahan was ready to become a head coach. I know he was very respected in Cincinnati. And my gosh, I don't know how Callahan survives in Tennessee. Jimmy, I don't know if you're following it, but with all the nonsense that's going on, he was known as a really good play caller, but it's difficult, I think, and I believe this, it's difficult being a head coach and a play caller. He's giving up the play calling duties because they were such a mess. And I would be willing to bet it wasn't his call. That would be my bet. The general manager, the owner, probably said, you're giving this up. I would bet that absolutely unequivocally. And usually when that happens, you're on thin ice. And I love the drafting award. And I'm not giving up on Ward. To give up on a rookie quarterback who's playing right away, who's trying to figure things out, I think is silly and it's stupid. And he's probably playing before he needs to play, but therefore you've got all that money in him. So why not go through growing pains this year? I agree with it, whatever. But I got to tell you, if you're a Titan fan right now, you got to be ticked off. You got rid of Mike Vrabel, who I thought was a hell of a coach. But, you know, father time is father time, and you start rubbing some people the wrong way. And very often when you get rid of a guy, you don't realize how good you had it. And so I think the odds of Callahan surviving, unless they have a big turnaround, I don't think are very good, Jimmy. You agree?
Yeah, no, the writing's on the wall there. That it's just, it's interesting that it just doesn't see, the vibe there's not very good. You never really see anything positive with him. Last year, it was him screaming at Will Levis constantly, which sometimes deservedly so, but he didn't, the composure, he didn't really have that composure you typically see in a head coach.
You know, and that's a good point because he was known for having composure when he was with the Bengals.
Oh, when you got Joe Burrow that's running the plays that you're calling, it makes it a little easier.
Absolutely, and the pressure of being a head coach, no question about it. But he had a calmness and a coolness and that kind of stuff, and he and Zach Taylor were close. And I got to tell you, Mike Brown doesn't fire coaches real easily, but if the Bengals' offensive line doesn't get any better, I don't know how you keep him. I mean, I stand by what I said. Look, I like Browning, and I said it, and I still said, the other day that he's better than a few of the starting quarterbacks in the NFL, and I believe it. He was horrendous the other day. And he threw 3 picks, although he won the first game with a game-winning drive with the pressure on, with the 3 picks and jumps over the line, I think with 19 seconds to go or whatever the heck it was to win the game. And I like Browning. But I got to tell you, if Burrow was the quarterback last Sunday with that line, they'd have trouble. You can't run the ball. They cannot run the ball because their line is so bad. And so now you have a backup in there, and the defense knows you can't run the ball, so they're loading up. And it seemed like in the clips, I didn't watch the game, but I think it was 38 or 39 clips. And to me, on a highlight package, 38 or 39 clips, unless it's Kentucky, that's good enough. It just is. And it seemed like there were more guys covering passes than defending the run because they weren't worried about defending the run. And so I thought it made it tough on Browning. Plus, Browning had to rush his passes. Peyton Manning, when you rushed him, wasn't as good. Still one of the top quarterbacks in the history of the sport, but the point is anybody can get rushed. Tom Brady, I'm not comparing Browning to Brady or those guys, but if you rushed, you rushed, and I thought he was rushed, and I thought he forced some balls, and I thought he was getting rid of some balls, and I thought he made some bad decisions based upon what I saw. I'm not shilling for him, but I'm saying you can't fix that offensive line. And, Jimmy, how the hell do you fix the offensive line? It's almost October. How do you fix the offensive line? It's October. So, to me, that's the Bengals management. They stink. They stink. You don't go into the season. Jimmy, you remember, I've harped on this before the season started. You know, they were looking for a guard before the season. What? Spend $40 million, $50 million if you have to get a guard. You're protecting the franchise. And you know what? I love Marty Brennan. I mentioned the monologue that he called the Bengals owners a joke. A joke. I'm not disagreeing. I'm really not. When you have a talent like Joe Burrow, Think about this, Jimmy. Could you think of 5 teams right now easily that if Joe Burrow was healthy and you stick them on, they go from being second tier to a Super Bowl contender? Wouldn't you say this easily, easily 5 teams?
Yeah.
And so the Bengals have that talent. I mean, think about it. That Carson Palmer, he rips his knee. And I'll never forget that in the broadcast booth in the opening series against Pittsburgh where Kimo Van Ollenhoffen ripped his knee. And it was like, I have never heard in a commercial break Dave Lapham curse like that. Dave Lapham does a great job with the Bengals, but he is Mr. Bengal. I think he's got like 50 years plus as a player and a broadcaster. He should be in every Hall of Fame. They finally put him in the Ring of Honor and stuff like that. And I will never forget the words that started with F. And it wasn't just Lap, by the way. You could hear people in front of us because the window's open, so you can hear and stuff like that. The cursing that was going on in the stand, never heard cursing like that. 14 years of doing the Bengals and stuff like that. And so they've had quarterbacks. You know the guy nobody forgets? Did you ever hear Greg Cook?
No.
Mike Brown believes that Greg Cook was the greatest potential quarterback the Bengals ever had. Now think about that. Boomer Esiason, Kenny Anderson, who should be in the Hall of Fame, and I said this when I was doing radio in Cincinnati, if Kenny Anderson played in New York, go look at his percentage numbers. And the records he set by completing passes and stuff. If Kenny Anderson played in New York for the Giants, he'd have been in the Hall of Fame decades ago, and now he'll never get in. But if you think about it, for as little as the Bengals have won with Boomer Esiason and all the quarterbacks they haven't won bupkis. They just haven't. They've had all this bad luck that's absolutely ridiculous. So I'll watch the Bengals Monday night. I will. I'll be also prepping for the show. And it'll be on, and if they do something good, I'll pay attention a little bit more. But I've saw that they might be 2-1, but I've quit on them. I really have. I don't see how they win half their games. I feel sorry for Bengal fans. And by the way, I enjoyed doing the Bengals radio network. I really did. This is going to be a year that a lot of coaches are going to get fired. Let's put it this way. If Arkansas loses the next 3 games, there's no way Sam Pittman survives. You agree with that, Jimmy? No way.
Yeah.
He won't survive the season. Petrino will take over on an interim basis. And if he does well, you know I'm going to have on? I'm going to give my friend Roger Clinton a call. He's Mr. Hog. We haven't talked to him in about 7-8 months probably. And he's crazy copy. Matter of fact, he wanted to do a sort of a gambling thing every Friday, picking games in the SEC and that kind of stuff. And that's a Brad Taylor kind of thing. It's not a me kind of thing. But I wonder what he thinks about Pittman. I don't see how he survives. There's going to be more job opens this year than. Whew. It's crazy. It's crazy. By the way, I got to give a little love. It's been in my notes for a couple days. Brandon Eccles. Jimmy, I don't know if you followed him. Jets had him. They let him go, which surprised me because he did a nice job for a guy that was a low draft choice. And Pittsburgh picks him up, and the Steelers don't win the game the other day without him. He comes up with a huge interception and then makes the big tackle. Now, here's a kid coming to Kentucky. Was he a 5-star? No. Jimmy, I'm pretty sure he was a 3-star. And he's one of a group of DBs that you have to give Brad White and his staff credit for developing. That's why with all the problems, I'm doing a circle ending around here with some of the problems that they're having in the secondary because they have injuries and their depth isn't any good. That's why I have some faith that this defensive coaching staff can coach these guys up. Because there's a lot of guys from the secondary that are in the NFL from Kentucky that when they came here, there is no way you thought they might be NFL players. I'd like to find one coach, one person that thought 3 years ago that Max Harrison would be a first-round draft choice with Buffalo. And I hope he gets healthy. Just one. Just one. And Eccles, he's not very big, right? You've seen him, Jimmy. He's small. He's not slow, but it's not like he's a burner. And you saw the clips. He made 2 huge plays for the Steelers. As a matter of fact, they're below 500 without him. So we don't give him enough love. And the other thing, too, is Josh Hines Allen. This is an interesting stat. He's not doing a bunch of sacks, but he's number 1 in the NFL with 18 pressures.
Wow.
That's a lot of pressures.
3 weeks, you do that math? 6 pressures a week?
So he's like, and I looked for some more clips of him the other night, and Jimmy, you can see me. He's like this far away.
Yeah.
Of having like leading the league in sacks, but he isn't. I mean, it just is what it is. But he got his hand on the ball of the quarterback, which turned out to be Eccles' best friend. and I'm telling you what, Josh Hines Allen, if the sacks equal to the pressures, would it surprise me if he ends up being in the top 3 in sacks this year? No. No, but Eccles in particular, I wanted to give some love for, because I wonder how many Kentucky fans even remember him. He was really nondescript, and then at the end of his career, it came on. So I was happy. I've had this Soto thing in my notes now for about 5 days. The other day, he hit his 42nd, whenever that was, and I laughed. Do you remember, Jimmy, when he first went with the Mets and he couldn't do anything, and there was pressure, and he didn't want to talk to the media, and you could tell he was uptight, and you heard me say many times, just give the guy a month to relax. Once he gets comfortable in the locker room and stuff, he's just going to be Soto. And he is. He's had another Soto kind of year. He's had a great year. He's actually set some records and stuff like that. I wouldn't pay him over $700 million. I think it's a ridiculous amount of money. But what you're paying is what you're getting. And there were some people in New York who said, hey, he's a bust already. And I'm going, shut up. You heard me say that. Shut up. You know, he's in a new clubhouse. He's not comfortable with guys. And you started seeing with the home runs and stuff like that, how guys were going around him where they really weren't right away. You know, I don't care how much money you have. It takes a while to ingratiate yourself with teammates, right? And the Mets are getting, although the Mets suck, they're getting what they want from them. So people make these judgments on players. Sometimes you got to give them a little time and let their talent come out, right? You agree?
Yeah. Well, and even if you're someone who's established, they were booing Aaron Judge last year. Oh, how many home runs did he end up hitting? 62? When he was hitting like $120 the first month of the year? It's you can't win.
You're right. You can't win. That's a really good point, Jimmy, but I want more. If Judge in postseason stinks again, he's going to hear boo birds.
As he should.
Yes, as he should. With that much money, you expect certain things. So Maurice Douglas didn't join us. He will join us on Monday. I have no idea what happened to James Blackman. He said he was excited to do the show. We'll try to hook it up some other time. Appreciate Sean Woods. Appreciate Brandon Ramsey. No show tomorrow, right?
I believe it's Thursday.
Isn't tomorrow Thursday?
No, today's Tuesday.
You know what? You know what's terrible? I did that with my wife today, too.
It would be nice to go ahead and fast forward to Wednesday.
No, I'm not looking to have another day of my life disappear. My shot clock is on as it is. That's terrible. That's absolutely terrible. So tomorrow we have a show. We have no show on Thursday. Thank you, Jimmy. I love technology. Brad Taylor's coming up next. Matthew and Jimmy at 10. I'll be back at noon. Honored and pleased to be with you. Honored and pleased that you're spending time with me. We'll do a little more football talk coming up tomorrow, Thursday off. Then we have Friday. And then Cats and South Carolina